What's up, guys? The UFC 320 card just wrapped up, and what a crazy main event to conclude the entire card. The blessings of an Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka win are so gratifying. Jiri was crying seeing Alex claim glory once again, which was all Ali Abdelaziz's fault, by the way. He just had to get on Alex's nerves by constantly trash talking him, and then Alex took it out on Ankalaev. No, but that main event was such a great performance. The co-main event was pretty decent, Merab defeating Cory Sandhagen, which was the only decision on the entire main card. So we had 2 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 1 decision on the main card. But it was almost a TKO in the second round. The prelims had 3 knockouts and 1 decision, which was Patchy mix versus Jakub Wiklacz. But the early prelims had no knockouts, 1 submission, which was Ramiz Brahimaj versus Austin Vanderford, and 4 decisions. The early prelims definitely underdelivered, but overall I would give the card an 8 out of 10. Honestly, I think it was amazing. And we're going to start with the main event. Alex Pereira defeats Magomed Ankalaev in the rematch by first round knockout. This was by all measures the easiest win in Alex's career, not just UFC, in his entire MMA career, against one of his very best opponents. 100% takedown defense throughout 2 fights, knocked him out very quickly, and Ankalaev only landed 4 total strikes. Alex's pressure was overwhelming, dude. You saw how uncomfortable Ankalaev was, leaning away and constantly trying to push kick to create some space, but even as the counter striker, Alex's pressure was so suffocating that it even made the counter striker uncomfortable and just rattled him with the right hand, finished it with ground and pound in one of the most ferocious ground and pound sequences I have ever seen, crushing the ribs with those downward elbows and trying to knock him unconscious with the elbows to the head. And Ankalaev was just trying to survive, waited for the referee to step in. Angry Alex Pereira performed and seemingly is a new mythical fighter. What a performance, dude. And Alex winning is a reserve of another superstar for the UFC to use. So they're going to Paramount Plus with Ilia Topuria, potentially if Islam defeats JDM. Islam Makhachev is a decent star. Hamza Chimaev and Alex Pereira, all headlining events on Paramount. And we'll see, is Alex versus Tom Aspinall a potential White House worthy main event? I think so, but we'll see. His next opponent is going to be Carlos Ulberg though. And I don't think Ulberg wins. He's a good striker, another counter striker, but I think more capable than Ankalaev in the stand-up at least. I just don't know if it's enough to beat Alex. How do you beat this guy at this point? If he beats Ulberg, I need to see him at heavyweight, and that should be the next move afterward. There would be nothing left for him at light heavyweight after. He beat Jiri twice, who is the next contender after Ulberg. And then Merab Dvalishvili defeats Cory Sandhagen via unanimous decision, 49-45. I think 2 49-45s and then 1 49-46. So one of the judges scored the second round as a 10-9, not a 10-8. It's clearly a 10-8, right? He almost finished him. He took him down a million times. Yeah, if you almost finish the opponent, it should be an automatic 10-8, especially if the opponent doesn't rebound effectively, and Cory did not. But he had a very good first round. Cory was performing. He was keeping great control on range, using his jab, angling away from the fence, and had some sturdy takedown defense. He was defending most of it. But Merab got buffed, okay? Merab got buffed. Now he has punching power. That just seems unfair. He's evolving to be the perfect fighter. We didn't know he can submit opponents, at least at the elite level, and he submitted Sean O'Malley. And now he hurts Cory Sandhagen far more than any of Cory's previous opponents. That includes Yan, Lineker, Yadong, just to name a few danger strikers. No one nearly finished him like that. So now these guys have to respect his punching power as well as his submission ability with the endless cardio and the well-rounded skill set. Is Merab the best fighter we've ever seen? It is uncommon for champions to improve at the rate that Merab is. Usually they stagnate or there's slight improvements that they make, but Merab isn't just refining his skills. He's adding new layers. And he talked about that in the post-fight interview, saying that he's a judo guy. Everyone thinks he's a wrestler, but no, he's a judo guy who had to adjust his style for MMA, and he's still learning at the gym, advancing his skill set. It's amazing, dude. I mean, he swarmed Cory in the second round, hurt him, dropped him, almost finished, and then the rest of the fight, and then the rest of the rounds were Merab just doing Merab stuff, right? It was a typical Merab performance. Cory did better in the fourth, but not enough to win the fight. He gave a great effort, and he just lost to the best in the world. And that second round discouraged Cory's efforts in the third. He was willing to retreat. He wasn't controlling the range as he was in the first. Suddenly had to respect Merab's power after underestimating it before the fight. I mean, he said that Merab didn't have a chance in the stand-up. He would force Merab to stand up with him by defending the takedowns and then just take the win from there. But when he got hurt, bro, it must have threw him mentally into a whirlwind after. To have to refocus after that must have been demoralizing for him. But he did a lot better in the fourth. But the fight got away from him in the second due to Merab just being the better fighter. Now, everybody else who fights him knows that they can't just walk through his shots or expect to win if they can stop his takedowns. And Yan is next. Now, Merab said he wants to fight in December. I don't think Yan has much of a chance, but let's do it. That's a great fight with an active champion and a worthy contender who just defeated some of the other top contenders. And the next in line should be the winner of Umar versus Batista. So they're going to do Merab versus Yan next. And as for Cory Sandhagen, he should fight the winner of Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Especially if O'Malley wins. We've always wanted to see that fight. Sean versus Cory would be amazing. And then Jiri Prochazka does it again. That third round was definitely a let's go for that mentality. Straight up outdogged Khalil Rountree, who seemed like a step ahead technically for the first two. But Jiri does everything wrong. But the guy just has X factor that we can never really explain. How this consistently works against everybody other than Alex Pereira. And this only upscales Alex's power, because Khalil Rountree is explosively powerful, and he hit Jiri with his very best, only for that crazy Viking samurai to walk him down for the third round where Khalil could not survive. Rountree was fatiguing toward the end of the second round, and Jiri sensed it, even after getting bludgeoned to the head multiple times throughout, and just walked through Rountree with willpower. But it wasn't just the pressure and the body shots. Jiri Prochazka's endless unconventional feints, all the crazy stuff he throws everywhere, misdirecting punches and making it look like he's going to fire when he isn't. There was a whole lot of that, and Rountree reacted to so many of them. They were overloading his nervous system. Whereas for Jiri, he only had to react to the actual punches that Rountree was throwing forward, with way less feints for him to deal with, as Rountree wasn't presenting as much. So Jiri's feints were such an important component in this fight. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, technically he does everything wrong. He gets hit a lot. More than is advised, for sure. I don't know. You just gotta love Jiri. He doesn't make sense. He should always lose his fights with the way he approaches them, but he's found that magic, and he tends to succeed. He was ripping shots to the body in the third and stringing together combinations with overwhelming output and keen precision, too. That left hook landed perfectly on the jaw, one-shotting Rountree. And do what makes it all the more impressive? Jiri is doing this while being outweighed by everybody he fights. He walks around in the 210s. He even contemplated once going to middleweight. And I'm very glad he never did. This is his weight class. He doesn't have to be the very best. Being the king is not necessary for him to prosper. He is one of the elite light heavyweights, and above all else, he truly gives the fights that the fans want to see. Every single time, without a miss. Jiri is awesome. He wants to fight for the belt. To be fair, Jiri's fought for the belt multiple times, and Olberg never had that chance. So I think they're going to go with Olberg. And perhaps Jiri can fight like Jan Blachowicz or Ankalaev. And to speak about Rountree's performance, Rountree was performing optimally for the first two. He was doing so well. He might be the very best first and second round fighter in the light heavyweight division. He won both rounds against Alex, and then he won both rounds against Jiri. Destroyed Jamal Hill, right? Rountree was landing some good leg kicks, left straights, clubbing hooks, but most of it did not affect Jiri, and that doesn't make any sense. How is Jiri so durable? How did King Mo one-shot him at Ryzen? Do these durable performances upskill King Mo? The finish was a one-punch knockout, but he did inflict damage before, so I guess it wouldn't be a one-shot necessarily. But you get what I mean, how did that guy knock Jiri out? But Alexander Rakic couldn't, Khalil Rountree couldn't, Jamal Hill, Dominic Reyes, and all of these other guys couldn't. Except Alex, of course. Alex is different. I think Rountree should fight either Magomed Ankalaev or Alexander Rakic. And then what about Youssef Zalal with a stunning first round finish against Josh Emmett, armbarred him immediately, and it came off an impeccable takedown. The timing was perfect. Caught Emmett once he advanced. Seemed like he wanted to get the back, but then put his focus on potentially a triangle choke, but the positioning was perfect if it failed because he was ready to transition that into an armbar, and that was enough to finish the fight. That was as dominant as it gets. Josh Emmett literally had no moments. I don't even think he landed a single strike. Youssef Zalal absolutely redeemed himself from the Kelvin Kattar performance. Going from that to an emphatic first round finish being so superior to the opponent that they couldn't even land a single strike against him. He deserves a top 5 opponent after that. But he called out Lerone Murphy, who's probably getting a title shot. So as great as that would be, I don't foresee that fight next. Maybe in the future, those two guys can have a technical battle against each other. But at this point, you can give Youssef Zalal any of the top 5 fighters. And speaking of that, dude, I never would have thought Zalal would be fighting the elite. I mean, he is a completely different fighter from the guy who previously fought in the UFC. Got cut, went to another organization, and just revamped himself. Zalal's evolution has been such a treat to watch. But we'll see. Maybe Zalal fights for a belt one day, as it looks quite difficult to defeat him right now. He is so skilled, dude. And then Joe Pyfer defeats Abus Magomedov by a second round submission. Who would have thought? I would have guessed a knockout, if not a decision, but definitely not a submission. The switch up of approaches between the first and second for Pyfer were quite intelligent. Like, it was pretty nice. He began the first with wrestling, but it was met with some resistance. Abus outgrappled him, got briefly taken down, but then reversed, I think, off of the knee shield sweep, held the top position, went for the Kimura at one point, took him down again off of that, like, I don't even know what you would call that. He was on his back, had sort of like a headlock, and just lifted him and slammed him. He landed 2 left hands in the stand-up after winning the first round, right? But Pyfer adjusted his approach. Began the second round differently, throwing hands more. Rocked him with a right overhand that was guarded against, right? So Abus saw the punch and he went to block it, but they're wearing 4-ounce gloves. It snuck past the guard, landed to the side of the head, bombed him with another one, and just went to work with his grappling. Landed some ground and pound shots, cut him open. Targeted the arm triangle, which was very interesting because Abus's entire left side was up against the fence, so there wasn't room for Joe Pyfer to pass right through. Right? He needed to get himself on that side. So I thought that he was going to waste his efforts going for that arm triangle, but he was still able to force his way into that position, pass into full mount, and then was like kicking him away from the fence, securing the position, but Abus still survived, man. The guy's tough. But eventually Joe Pyfer got the back and won with a rear naked choke. It didn't seem like it was under the chin, but with how physically strong this guy is, he doesn't need to snap onto the neck with it. Crushing the chin into the neck is enough for Pyfer to choke someone out. So it was a fantastic win from Joe Pyfer, and he's most likely going to fight in the top 15 next, given that Abus would be ranked in the top 20 if it existed. So I would actually prefer Joe Pyfer versus Marvin Vettori. Let's do that fight. That'd be interesting. And then Ateba Goutier, emphasis on the GOAT, made easy work of Tre'ston Vines. The fight went almost exactly as we expected. I'm not gonna lie though, even though I was making jokes about Vines, tapping out at the beginning, bro immediately began sprinting around the octagon. I don't blame him. We'd all do the same. He didn't throw a single strike for like what seemed like an eternity, but then finally shot a takedown from half a football field's distance and ate a knee. That was enough to put on notice that this fight was over for him. Like, if that was the best he's got, there's no wonder that Goutier was a minus 4,000 favorite, right? He shot a takedown against the fence. Goutier defended it, landed 2 elbows that seemingly like sent a shock throughout his body. The guy was pretty much out of it from those elbows. Goutier just threw him to the side and then finished the fight on the ground. Tre'ston Vines seemed like he just came there to be a UFC fighter for a day. He didn't give it much of an effort. It was almost as if he accepted his fate at the beginning of the fight. Shot a few takedowns, fight was over, and gave Ateba Goutier his respect. And jokes aside, respect to Vines for stepping up. Many would not, and I don't foresee many others in the future even accepting a scheduled fight with this guy. Great performance by him, and hopefully he returns to the octagon soon. And Goutier was given so much respect, like he was staying far away as well. I think if Goutier pressured, he would have gotten the finish earlier. But the fact that he didn't, honestly, I think is great quality because he's going to give all of his opponents respect, which was absent from Ju Sung Yu earlier. It shows that regardless against a newbie or potentially even against a champion, Goutier is going to approach it with the foremost focus. It makes the guy even more terrifying because I don't think he cares about his power. I don't think he puts much weight on it. He approaches the fight in a technical manner and tries to keep everything fundamentally perfect. You see it from his stance to the way he throws punches, the way he threw the knee, like everything is measured, which is honestly great quality for a fighter to have who has like earth-shattering power, because all that is necessary is for him to land his shots. Because everything he throws has incredible power, he just needs to focus on landing and everything else falls into place. And I think that could take him very far in this sport because there's so many powerful strikers who put all of their weight on their power. That power is the source of their confidence. So whenever they're not able to score that knockout, they tend to fall apart. Not with Goutier though, his confidence comes from his technique. And then Daniel Santos knocks out Ju Sung-yu in the second round. This came after a bunch of showboating. Ju Sung-yu was trying to be a showman out there and make it exciting. Perhaps the 25-second debut knockout got to his head. Made him cocky, and he got knocked out after retreating off of his leg kick with low hands. He didn't respect Santos' power and lost for the first time of his career. I don't think that's going to be it for Ju Sung-yu. I don't think that's the conclusion to his potential. It's his first loss, his second UFC fight. He's an excellent fighter, but it's Daniel Santos' night, man. He looked great out there, got the takedown as well, mixed up the game, and then knocked him out. Yo, and Santos' post-fight interview was pretty fire. He said, "We are shoot to box. You gotta respect us because we'll get hit, but you better be ready for what comes back." And that sort of encapsulates their entire fighting style. And then Jakub Wiklacz defeated Patchy Mix, giving him his second straight UFC loss. I'm not mad at it, dude. I know a lot of people believe that Patchy Mix did enough to win, but he did attempt to lay in prey to a decision. Wiklacz actually attempted to submit it and attempted to knock him out. He was throwing with more heat, much more fight-ending intent with everything he did, definitely winning the first round. I thought Patchy Mix may have won the second, as it seemed like Wiklacz was slowing down from all of his energetic attacks. I mean, constant guillotine pulls and attempting to butterfly sweep at all of his opportunities. So Patchy Mix started to land some shots in the second, but you know what, man? It was a close round. Patchy may have won the third by straight up laying praying. I am sort of happy that Jakub won this fight. It was his UFC debut. You could tell he was very passionate, very excited to be there. An invigorating performance with all of those guillotines, but it is sort of his style. You know, he has a lot of first round submissions, specifically from the guillotine, and he's only going to improve. So I'm actually excited to see Jakub Wiklacz continue his UFC career. But we have to talk about Patchy Mix's trajectory, because I have no idea how that fighter we just saw defeated Sergio Pettis and Magomedov, which was also a very close fight. I don't know how he won those fights. He beat Kyoji Horiguchi, but Horiguchi's a flyweight. And that actually might be the methods to his victory. He was a size bully to a lot of those guys. He legitimately fought better at Bellator. Like, he was definitely performing with higher aptitude. He had more of an energetic style. He was more aggressive, more pressuring. I don't know what it is. Perhaps the UFC bright lights and the expectations put on him, which I have as well. I had high expectations for Patchy Mix, but it's because of what he was able to do at Bellator. He beat some good guys, man. Pettis, Magomedov, Horiguchi, like, these are solid fighters. And now in the UFC, he's resorted to a lay-and-pray artist. He strikes like he's made out of wood, with the only redeeming qualities being durability and toughness. Like, he could take a big shot and he can keep walking forward no matter of the offense, but he doesn't provide much offensive or defensive skill. He was actually able to bring the fight into his world and did nothing with it. Now, Wiklacz is a great grappler. There's nothing to take away from him. But there were many opportunities where he could have attempted to transition, not just based off of a failed guillotine attempt. He was not giving an effort of passing through positions and going for submissions. Like, one time he went for the back at the end of the fight, and that was pretty much it. So, man, Patchy Mix is just not it. He showed no urgency to win. I mean, he probably thought laying on top was enough to win a decision, but dude, if that is your intended method for victory, you don't belong in the UFC. Where were the scrambles, transitions, submissions? Where was all that stuff that we've seen from his skill set in Bellator? He was persistent on just laying on top with no deviation. Not in the third round where Wiklacz won the first, second up in the air. He had Wiklacz on the ground in that third from the first 5 seconds and still did nothing with that opportunity. Insane, bro. I'm happy Jakub Wiklacz won this fight, because if that's how he intends to perform, then he should return to PFL or something. He doesn't belong in the UFC fighting like that. So great UFC debut win for Jakub Wiklacz, and Patchy Mix is most likely going to get another fight, and hopefully he actually performs. And then what a finish by Edmen Shahbazyan. He was a big favorite going into it, but it was sort of a comeback win. He wasn't too hurt, but Muniz was actually landing with success. He was putting together combinations. He landed a good right straight that initiated that momentum. Carried it forward, pressured, went for a takedown, got him to the ground briefly, landed another shot, but mid-exchange, he gets countered by the check hook, rocked, and then Edmen just finished him off with like 2 seconds left of the round, I think. That is a finisher right there. He didn't give Muniz that sort of respect in believing that he was going to recover. That's a great finish from Edmen Shahbazyan and his protruding ribs. Dude, you guys see that? Those are his ribs. Can that be natural? Or did he have some sort of injury that caused this? Because I wonder if that perhaps could be a vulnerable target for some of his opponents. Broken pokey with his ribs. It's insane. Great win by Edmen, and that's the 7th knockout loss in Andre Muniz's career. He has 8 total losses, and 7 of them are by knockout. The only other guy who didn't knock him out was Brendan Allen. And yeah, that's pretty bad, dude. He just doesn't have much of a chin. He can't withstand damage too much. You see it often whenever he gets hit somewhat cleanly. Doesn't have to be the most powerful shot. If you land just a somewhat clean shot on Muniz, it's enough to make him start dancing. And then Punahele Soriano defeats Nikolay Veretennikov by decision. This definitely did not meet expectations. Soriano turning into a wrestler was quite surprising. I mean, he didn't really entertain the striking as much as I thought he would, but Veretennikov just didn't really have much takedown defense. He refused to use the underhook. It was like he was allergic to even throw one in there, but instead substituted it with guillotines and headlocks, which is not enough to thwart a double leg like that. Veretennikov did get the back in the second round though, but was very impatient for it. Veretennikov went for the guillotine in the third, but overall Soriano's cardio was deficient and performance was lackluster. And then the unexpected resurgence of Yana Santos has been pretty interesting. Now she defeats Macy Chiasson by a unanimous decision. It was funny, Chiasson was like declaring her victory, and just for her not to win the decision was pretty funny. She clearly lost the fight. Yana Santos was inflicting so much more damage from the clinch. Knees to the body, uppercuts to the face, elbows over the top. She also won the third round, I think, where she went for the rear naked choke, got the face crank. It was pretty tight, but that is now 3 straight wins for Yana Santos. And the Farid Bashara defeats Chris Goutierrez by unanimous decision. Winning the first 2 rounds, Gutierrez rallied for the third. And overall, just a pretty solid fight. Bashara hurt him in the second round with the right straight. Got a few well-timed takedowns, but it seemed like Gutierrez dropped him in the third with that flurry. And overall, just a solid fight. I think Bashara should be fighting someone ranked. Perhaps Rob Font. The gatekeeper has been summoned once again. Ramiz Brahimaj defeats Austin Vanderford by a second round submission. That is the product of self-belief, man. Huge underdog, goes in there, hurts him with a high kick off of the combination, which was a beautiful sequence. Vanderford going for a takedown, and Ramiz, I don't know how he did it, man, but got the front choke, and Vanderford tapped within 5 seconds of it? Very unexpected. Very subtle submission. But man, that is confidence manifesting right there. This guy's on a 3-fight win streak, all finishes. A lot of us counted him out. I was even thinking Vanderford could have won this. But I've underestimated Brahimaj in his last 2 fights. I wasn't going to do it for this one. I picked him to win, and he performed excellently. And then Veronica Hardy defeats Brogan Walker by a decision. It was a good performance from Hardy. She was countering a lot. Dropped her in the second round with the right straight. Blitzed in with a few combinations and stuff, but was toppled over in the grappling quite easily. You could definitely tell the size difference was definitely impactful. It looked like she was going to finish that armbar in the first round, but Brogan Walker got her back in the third. But ultimately, good win for her. And that is ultimately the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.